Okay, thanks so much, Jared. We are thrilled to have with us, coming all the way from London via Zoom, our friend Jean-Pierre from Mantle Labs. As you just heard in the last presentation and have heard over the last couple of days, the carbon markets are absolutely front of mind for everyone in the global ag investing community. And John's going to tell us about a really exciting joint venture coming up that is going to help us to quantify and scale the carbon market. So John, thanks so much for zooming in with us today. And we look forward to your presentation.
Hi, Kate. Good to be here. Shame I couldn't be there in person, but good to be here virtually today.
Fantastic. Take it away.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time. So the panel earlier emphasized the need for having domain expertise. So I think this presentation on the exciting new entity and joint venture, Geotree, follows on nicely from that theme. So here I'm going to tell you about a story of two companies, Mantle Labs, which is a remote sensing company, and Geotree Partners, a commodities trader, and how they are partnering together to leverage their combined expertise to tackle the huge opportunity that is soil carbon. So I think we're fairly familiar with the issues affecting our nascent soil carbon markets. Things like a lack of robust and cost-effective monitoring. Right now, we're talking a lot about physical soil sampling, and that's very difficult to scale, especially globally as well. Also, I think some of the speakers emphasize the need to have support tools to help farmers make that transition. So a real need for agronomic support in particular. Also, there clearly is a bit of a disconnect between the carbon programs we see and also the global carbon markets. So that's another key thing we need to untap in order to have the buy side of the equation come into the mix. And also, I think once we think about the over 500 million farmers out there, so 500 million farmers, it's fairly clear to see and easy to appreciate that we're just kind of scratching the surface when it comes to the supply side of the equation. So I think to tackle these core issues, and especially when it comes to the cost-effective and scalable monitoring of farmers all over the world and sustainable practices, it's quite clear that we require best-in-class remote sensing capabilities. And I think this is what Mantle Labs brings to the mix. So before I go into this slide, I want to give you a small disclaimer. When you're evaluating people on their companies who claim to have remote sensing expertise, I would say just look inside under the bonnet a bit and make sure that they do in fact have some remote sensing experts inside the company, because you'd be surprised as how many companies this expertise is lacking. But anyway, this is not a problem when it comes to Mantle Labs. We have a R&D team led by Professor Clemens Atzberger, one of the world's leading academics when it comes to remote sensing of vegetation, an advisor to the European Space Agency, and probably the most cited academic in this field. And this allows us to build really scalable solutions utilizing remote sensing for leading reinsurers like Allianz Re, for banks and credit bureaus like Axis Bank and TransUnion, commodities traders like Olam, and also some of the leading crop input companies like BASF and Bayer. Also, given this deep remote sensing capability, we're able to monitor, not just crops, but all kinds of vegetation, including forestry and mangroves. So it's a real capability across all vegetation. And also, I think another key component to the Mantle Labs equation is this commercial team with deep, commercial experience. I think I'm probably a good example. Before joining Mantle Labs as Chief Business Officer, I had a career as an agriculture commodities trader at Citibank, where I was a VP leading their grains and oilseeds, and also at actually Geotree and Mercuria Energy Trading, one of the largest energy traders and commodities traders in the world. So we really also have, the R&D experience, but also I'd say the commercial nous to really be able to make solutions. So, built on this, I think, obviously that global remote sensing capability and expertise is itself a moat. And, I can't talk about remote sensing without being able to show you some nice visualizations from different points in the world. For example, top left, we have different crops being identified in South Africa, whether it's corn, bean, rice, a lot of different crops monitored, purely by remote sensing and identified. Also, in the background, we have in France crop health being monitored across a variety of crops during the growing season. Bottom right, we have crop rotations and crop shift monitored over time and different years in Egypt. Probably an aggregation of some of the tiniest farms seen globally. Each farm is around 1 acre in size. And then on the top right, a bit close to home for me in Cambridgeshire, monitoring the crop health of different crops. And this is something we do all over the world, and we can really take it down and to district level and take it to country level as required. So a really good deep remote sensing expertise on display here. But I would say, in addition to this, Mantle Labs takes it to a step further, and I think this is where the customer expertise and the industry expertise comes into its own, because we're also able to fit those remote sensing capabilities into solutions and products which fit seamlessly within customer workflows. And these customers, like I said before, like banks, credit bureaus, and insurers. And for example, you will see credit scoring engine on the left, which is used for risk capital allocation at some of the leading banks lending to farmers globally. But during the season as well, they need to understand their portfolio sensitivity and monitor their portfolios basis the weather and the crop health that we see. And that's another solution we provide as well, seamlessly integrating remote sensing into a product that they can actually use. And also another clear example of this in practice, we have a joint product with Allianz Re, using an index derived from our remote sensing capability. And this provides some of the most cost-effective multi-peril crop insurance anywhere on the planet, and is currently being rolled out globally to farmers of all sizes. So very exciting capability, converting remote sensing into, especially financial industry products as well. So on the other side of the JV, because I've spoken about Mantle Labs, but the other side of the Geotree equation, we have Geotree. So a commodities trader, which essentially it was formed by former Goldman Sachs partners, is part of Oaktree Capital, which itself was acquired by Brookfield Asset Management, one of the premier asset managers in the world. And also, one thing about Geotree, which I think really sets them apart from a lot of other commodities traders, is they have probably the most experienced carbon trading team in the world. And I think it's not unique that obviously this team is located in London, and Europe overall has the largest carbon market in the world. And also this team at Geotree has been able to trade this market since inception. And they've also been at their former companies, Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, and other outfits where they were trading carbon and developing carbon projects. But I think another interesting, dimension they bring to the table is because they are backed by institutional capital like Brookfield, they're able to provide offtake as well. So if you have a carbon project that you want to develop, Geotree can come and provide a firm offtake price and also finance a project as well. So that's another very interesting way to try and connect the upstream soil carbon markets to the downstream, the buyers in the end of the day. And also, I would say, in the context of yesterday's presentation that we saw, where it was quite clear that you need a whole kind of consortium of people to get a carbon project out of the ground and generating high quality credits. I think yesterday it was highlighted about 5 or 6 different parties who need to be consulted and conversations had with. Geotree has deep expertise in actually, taking a project from feasibility to project design and to credit issuance. So I think that's something which is very invaluable in all of the conversations we have. Added to that, they are members of the Task Force for Scaling Voluntary Carbon Markets. So, when we think about having standardized markets and large scale and global carbon markets, they are the forefront of actually doing this at scale. And actually, this initiative that they are part of, based also in the UK, is led by Brookfield's Mark Carney, who is the former Bank of England and Bank of Canada governor, and also well-respected climate czar at the moment. So a very interesting capability in terms of understanding the carbon markets, being able to connect to them. And funnily enough, they actually did the first trade of the CME's new carbon offset futures contracts. And personally interesting for me because the other side of that was my other former employer, Mercuria Energy Trading. So that's what we're bringing here with the combination of Geotree and Mantle Labs. So I think, we see that these are capabilities across the entire agricultural carbon technology stack, whilst also adding that financing and offtake layer. And I think that's why we see with Geotree, we have an entity that, I firmly believe is poised to have first scale advantage when it comes to the monitoring, the reporting of nature-based solutions, and in particular soil carbon, but also getting these carbon tons to market. I think it's a uniquely placed proposition to partner up with landowners, farmers, agribusinesses at scale. So, we've already started. We're monitoring the relevant projects and, looking at the crops on the ground, the rotations, the tillage practices, and working with agribusinesses who want to launch their own carbon programs. So this is something we're already starting. But also it's worth highlighting that whilst the focus is soil carbon and in a lot of the conversations, rice is also a huge opportunity that we're looking at. Its cultivation is responsible for up to 20% of global methane emissions and could be as bad for global warming as 1,200 coal power plants. So, it's when you think about rice cultivation, it's right up there with cows in terms of, what's coming out in terms of the global climate change impact. But at the same time, obviously, rice is a staple food for, 3 billion people globally, and provides 1/5 of global calories consumed. So we have a huge opportunity here to cultivate rice and feed the world. But at the same time, it has this impact. But the good part of the story is simple interventions can reduce this impact by up to 70%. So this is another interesting area that we're getting into monitoring and having projects in the rice methane emission space. So, the great thing about having the remote sensing capability that I mentioned before is that we don't have to be limited to soil carbon or rice, for example, but also we're able to look at things like agroforestry, which is, an example on the left, a project that we're looking at in Brazil, which is related to a carbon project as well. And also on the right, we're able to look on the blue carbon side. And this is an example of mangroves being monitored in Mumbai. So that's another interesting part to bring to the mix here. So, at Geotree, I would say, we're excited to partner with landowners, farmers, or those who interact with farmers. Together, the offering combining Manta Labs and Hartree, we can leverage the latest remote sensing innovation and carbon market expertise. And I think crucially, act as an enabler for agriculture to become a major nature-based climate solution, whilst, of course, connecting with farmers and connecting farmers to the climate finance markets at scale. So thank you very much for your time, and please be in touch if you want to partner with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. I think it's a really exciting time to be in the ag sector, and we're thrilled that you're a part of our group as well. I have a question that came in through the app. Thank you, everyone, for using the app. And this is probably relatable to a lot of our investors. This person has different holdings, diversified holdings in farmland. They have got some row crops and some forestry, it sounds like. So in partnering with Geotrees, is that appropriate across various assets?
Yeah, this is a great question, Kate. And I think the good thing about Geotree is that it has that expertise monitoring all types of vegetation, whether it's forest, crops of all types, including perennials and permanent crops, and also going into things like blue carbon, which may or may not be of interest to your attendees. But I think that deep capability across the whole vegetation landscape, I think, allows us to have projects that incorporate that kind of portfolio. So I think, to be honest, you probably would be one of our ideal partners, potentially, because we're keen to scale across all those nature-based solutions and really act as a force for good, connecting them with the carbon markets. So I think that's the exciting question to raise. Perfect.
So whoever you are, reach out to John. Maybe you'll make great partners.
Fantastic.
Okay, thank you so much. That's unfortunately all the time we have, but we're so grateful to you for being here with us this way. And hopefully we'll see you in person in London in December.
Yes, indeed, Kate. Look forward to seeing you guys when you hop across the pond in a few months' time. Stay safe till then.
Great.
All right. Cheers.
Thank you so much. You as well. Thanks. Okay, Jared, back to you in the tent.